Hello, movie lovers. Welcome home. My name is Amy Henserling, and you're listening to Watch This List Unplugged edition. Today, we have the hidden gems from the mind of Andy Swarticus. I'm very excited to have him back on my show. And say hello to everyone, Swart. How's it going?
It's going okay. It's very
Yeah?
hot outside, so I'm glad to be sitting in my basement where it's cool and going to talk about some wacky movies that we watched in the last week. That should be fun.
I don't know if I would use the word wacky to describe the first one. The second one, definitely, though.
For sure. For sure. I think it's hard to also to find hidden gems of these two guys. So it should be interesting to see what people think.
Oh, you mean the directors?
The directors and the directors for sure, but also like Cage and Costner. Unless you're going for Cage with the straight to videos, then it's hard to find mainstream stuff that people haven't seen by those two guys.
This is a good point, because one of the things about hidden gems that I enjoy is you're picking two films with very well-known directors and then very well-known actors. A lot of times the hidden gems are obscure in multiple ways, not just the title, but like everybody involved is not super famous. So
for sure.
This is actually good. Yeah.
I try to do that because I think more people. I'm sorry, I talked over you.
Go ahead.
I try to do that so more people will watch them, because I feel like if they're really obscure, then all of us will watch them, but the other people won't probably touch them unless
normal people,
the normies of the
normies,
bunch, the non-giallos.
Yeah.
Giallo.
You can't. Yes, you can't just say giallos. Come on,
I can't. I'm a dumb American. I can say whatever I want. Happy 4th of July.
That's right. It is Giallo July. Giallo July.
July.
You're supposed to. It really should be like there's like a way to do those two words mixed, but I'm not going to try to do it now.
I'm never going to try that again. I'm sorry.
We're going to start over here. We're off to a great start. The month of July is going to be Giallo. For me, 31 days. I just told Swart this. I have to do a double feature of Mario Bava's films today, who you probably have no idea who that is.
I've heard the name. What names
some
movies? What did he do?
The ones that I'm doing today, now you're putting me on the spot. The ones that I'm doing today are The Girl Who Knew Too Much.
Okay, I think you've talked about that in your reviews or something before. It sounds familiar, or
well, I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to be watching it, and then the other one is Blood and Black Lace, which is very famous.
That sounds intriguing.
It sounds intense.
Intense. Yes.
Yes, and I do rather like the genre very much because they're kind of fun. Oh, I have to ask you this though. One thing I told Yarb that I was going to be interviewing you, and he said to ask you if you've ever seen a foreign film.
Yeah, I've seen a foreign film. A couple. I was forced to when I was in college.
Because you're so American. You love true. American movies.
Actually, you look at my favorite list. There's a couple of them on there. On my list of favorites.
What's a foreign film that you've seen?
I really like Jules and Jim. That's on my list. That's one of my favorites.
Okay.
The original Breathless. There's a Polish film called Ida that's on my favorites list. I really like that one.
That's relatively recent, even
that's
though
a more
it's
recent one. City of God is also on my list. I mean, I'm just talking off the cuff right now, but there's a few on there. Yeah, but he's right. He's right. I mean, unless you count where he's from as being foreign, because I've watched some of those.
Like British films.
British films, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
what about Japanese?
Japanese?
Do you watch? Yeah, have you seen a Japanese film?
A Japanese film?
Kurosawa,
like
for instance.
Battle Royale. Oh yeah, I just recently watched Dreams, and I reviewed that one.
Okay.
Battle Royale is probably my favorite one.
That's one
What?
I
No, I
think
don't.
Quentin Tarantino loved.
I mean, yeah, a lot of them is because Quentin Tarantino's lists. I'll watch stuff like that. I really
Uh,
like what is that Wong Kar Wai one?
oh
I
no,
need to
don't
look at
talk
my
to me
movies. You're
about Wong Kar-wai.
putting me on the spot.
In the
Uh,
Mood for Love or Fallen Angels
no,
or
no,
um
the one that has oh my god, like why am I? I'm gonna be so mad at myself when I watch this back. I don't
it's
know.
what I that's my goal, Swart.
I don't know.
That you
You're
just
putting
are
me on the
filled
spot
with
now. I'm sitting
regret.
here looking at all my movies trying to find it, and I can't.
Wong Kar-wai. Well, I'm
it,
happy that
it's
you are more cultured than I thought.
no, I'm not that cultured. I mean, I'll
Yeah.
watch a foreign film if someone puts it in front of me, but you know,
Mm-hmm.
it it,
Otherwise,
I like American films mostly, not dumb ones though,
Am-
not like comic book movies.
American and American Cars, right?
American
I
cars,
want to.
any movies with cars like Christine, I really like that.
Mm.
Badlands is one of my favorite movies ever.
And
What else
oh,
has
you're talking now.
cars?
You're just saying like road trip stuff. Okay, we're veering off a little bit, but actually, this does somewhat apply because Swart's first film is A Perfect World, in which Kevin Costner is trying to find what a Ford. He wants a
He
Ford
doesn't
car.
want a Buick. He wants a
Or
Ford.
he doesn't want a Buick. He wants a Ford when
Yeah,
he escapes from prison in the first 5 minutes. So
that's right.
set this up for us, Swart. This is a 1993 film directed by Clint Eastwood. Why did you pick it? Why do you love it?
It's always been one of my favorite films since high school because Unforgiven has always been my favorite movie, and that kind of blew my mind when I was about 15 or 16. And
Mm,
then this came out, and I knew that was the first time I was really, other than Goodfellas, I really didn't follow like directors or anything like that. But I knew Clint Eastwood had another movie, and I watched this one, and I liked it almost as much, if not more, than Unforgiven. And I tell people about it all the time. I did more back then, but nobody seems to know anything about it. And almost everybody that I've told to watch it has liked it, um, including you and Yarb, I think.
yeah.
Um,
Well, it's an unusual one, I think, because like you were saying, how you love without spoiling Swart,
Try not
how
to.
you love the ending because it's so uncharacteristically drawn out and long, and there's just certain choices in this movie that are like anti-mainstream, but it's a mainstream film,
It's really
right?
dark. Yeah, it's super sweet, but at the same time, it's super dark. Which I think it's almost darker than Unforgiven because you know where Unforgiven's going to go because it's a western. So you kind of
Mm.
you get an idea of it. You know it's going to kind of have gun violence and there's going to be a shootout. But in this one, you don't really know what's going on, and you're kind of just thrown in it because it just starts with this weird art. I call it an arty for Eastwood because I've never seen a movie of his open like that with just a guy laying in a field and a Halloween mask and like money floating around and what looks like could be a helicopter above him, and you're just like, what the heck? And then it cuts right away, and you're on some Halloween street, people are trick or treating, and then they show two guys breaking out of prison, and then you're just in it, and it just goes and goes and goes, and then you get to the end, and it just turns into this very slow, methodical thing that really just grabs you. That makes
And it's
sense.
really an excellent cast too. Like
Oh yeah,
I think part of the reason you like it so much is because there's so many colorful characters.
yeah, absolutely. The guy that plays his, I don't really know how to say this, Keith Zarabajka, I think is his name, but I don't know why he
The
is.
guy who escapes from prison from with
Yeah,
him.
he's so creepy and he's so just evil that it kind of really set.
Menacing.
Yeah, he sets up
Yeah.
Costner like perfectly, and those two like are together. They're perfect together, and he's annoyed by him, but he knows he needs him at first, and then
Mm,
God, it's going to be hard to do this without spoiling stuff.
I know.
But
And you were about to.
I caught
The
myself.
you well, and Clint Eastwood himself is also in this. Like not only did
Yeah,
he direct it, but he's in it. He's done that a couple times though. That's not, obviously Unforgiven and then Gran Torino and
yeah, and I
that movie.
I read he was
Yeah.
doing movies like right on top of each other because he did In the Line of Fire during this too,
Oh
and
yeah.
the story goes supposedly that Steven Spielberg was going to do this, but then he did Jurassic Park instead, and then Eastwood took it. Or Costner, or no, Eastwood took it because he wanted to be in something that he just wanted to direct it, not be in it, and then Costner talked him into that role. And then it's really weird watching too. If you watch Unforgiven, and then it's basically like, hey, it's Will Money from Unforgiven, except he dyed his hair red. And now he's got this bohunk like Texas accent. It's just really off. Everything about it is off-putting, but at the same time, it's super interesting to watch.
Yeah, and I think Spielberg also did Schindler's List the same time that he did Jurassic Park. So
Yeah,
they were both doing multiple movies at the same time, around the same time.
Isn't it crazy how everybody would do that then? Like nobody does
I know.
that now. It takes them 3-4 years to get something out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and people's like I was just watching the sort of the making of The Graduate, and Dustin Hoffman was saying we rehearsed for like a month and then we shot for 100 days because Mike Nichols was coming from like a theater stage background, and he was extremely meticulous and like really cared about like them getting into the flow and all of that. And he was like, we can't do that now. Like you could never ever ask for 100 days. I mean, like things are done like that. But that, I mean, is a reflection
it's just
of the quality
based upon the, like a lot of those guys in those days were theater actors. I think that's part of it, right? They're used to that. They're more used to that quick pace and, doing rehearsals and, not basically finding the character in front of the camera, like with
exactly
100 takes.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a lot. It's turned into, which is funny because Eastwood is a guy that does like one take of everything.
I know.
Which I don't believe in this movie for a second, because there's too many perfect takes in this. Unless every actor is perfect on every single take, he had to have done a few more in this one. Some of those scenes.
That's what Sean Penn said about Mystic River. He was like, we were all terrified when we come on set because we knew that he only wanted to do between 1 and 3 takes. Yep. So every actor was like at the top of their form, ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he chose the people that he did, because they had to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think it's an old school mentality too. I mean, that because he probably started in that when the 50s or whatever, and that was all theater actors, and they probably worked a lot faster. They pumped out content way more. But it was a different time, and nobody does that anymore except for Eastwood.
A better time.
Swart. A better time. It was a better time.
The past was such a better time.
A perfect time. Yeah,
perfect.
I mean, there's something to be said for some of that. Like the old Howard Hawks movies where they're talking that machine gun dialogue. Like I don't know that anybody pulls that off. Maybe Wes Anderson or certain
Aaron Sorkin.
Sorkin. Well, I mean, when was the last time there was a good Sorkin movie though?
That's a great question.
It's been forever.
The Trial of the Chicago 7 was terrible.
Oh, right. Yeah, that wasn't that great.
I think that was the last thing that he did. Well, the Moneyball was really good. I like Moneyball.
Fantastic. Yeah, and the way they adapted that is kind of amazing, because I read that book and it's a lot of stats and a lot of very hard. I don't know. I still don't know how they got drama out of that, because that team was, I mean, they lost in the first round of the playoffs, and the movie makes it look like they won the World Series. But
I know
it's brilliant.
And it makes you feel that way.
It does.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, such a tight movie.
It manipulates your emotions, and that's kind of how this movie is. Like you this little family unit gets created with Costner and the boy that he kidnaps, and it goes in a direction you don't think it's going to go in, but then it rips you back into, oh, this is inevitable. This was going to happen all along. And it just is a roller coaster. And it got me again. It always gets me. I've seen it a million times. It gets me every single time.
Emotional, you mean?
Yep. Well, it kind of, this time was a little different too, because my dad just died. But that is, it grabs you just because of Costner. This is when Costner was big, when, the Costner of Dances with Wolves and JFK, and then he just kind of went in the crap.
Untouchables.
Untouchables. Yep. He's charming, and he's playing an anti-hero, which is rare for him. So I think it's just this perfect mix, and I just can't believe more people haven't seen it.
Yeah, you sort of incendiary remark from you to me was that this is Costner's best role, when for me it is his Crash Davis in Bull Durham. But for Swart, this is peak Costner, perfect Costner, really, right? You
Perfect
think
Costner.
he's like well-rounded, cool as hell.
He's 38 years old. He's at the height of his
Uh-huh.
powers. It's before he put his head up his own ass and started doing Wyatt Earp,
Waterworld.
Waterworld, Postman, which all of those have their charms. I mean, I love Waterworld. I think but I love it in a different way.
Of course you do.
I love it in a different way, a hilarious way. It's funny as hell.
Ironic.
In an ironic way. But yeah, there's a scene. He, like I told you, he was dressed like the ice cream man for like half of this movie, which is hilarious. But there's a scene when he goes to steal clothes off this guy's clothesline, and he just the old farmer's up on the tractor. He like stops. Costner just gives this wave, like this sarcastic wave, and just takes the clothes and goes back and steals the guy's car. It's like one of my favorite Costner scenes ever. Like just the little wave and smirk he gives them. So great. So great. I think he's got his sunglasses on. Maybe he doesn't, but
no, I don't think he does.
He's putting his sunglasses on and off all the time, which you noticed. I know. And then constantly playing with his lighter. Yeah.
With his lighter. Yeah. It made me want to have one. I just love.
Oh my God. I haven't had a cigarette in like 3 years, and I can't watch that. It's
visceral. Like you literally want to, and it's like a deep thing, to hear the click, and then the whole sequence of events. I know. I don't know why we relate on this, but it's so true.
It's so American. Like, and one thing I noticed this time that I know you and Yar brought it up, was the cars. They must have had 100 vintage cars, and they're in like perfect condition. And they have that vintage Airstream they use for that trailer for their like communications trailer when they're on the manhunt. And it's just, even that red truck pulling it, like you don't see that. It's just like nailed the period so completely. It's like
because it was made in the 90s, but it's set in what, the 50s?
I think it's set in 1962.
Okay, never mind. So the 60s.
So, but the cars are probably, some of them are from the 50s, I would imagine. And this is really a movie just about like a manhunt. That's why it reminded me of The Fugitive, because it's like about Clint Eastwood's just basically with Laura Dern, who's very sassy. Yeah, she's like she stepped off of Wild at Heart. Like she's still in sass mode.
Sass mode.
I think those were probably made around the same time, right? Maybe 2 or 3 years earlier.
She's in Jurassic Park, Swart.
Oh yeah,
I don't know how she did both.
She was huge. She was huge back then.
She was huge. Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was a kid, she annoyed me, but now I kind of like it now, because it's like she's she's like doing some sort of feminism thing in the early 90s, which probably to me as a kid, I was like, what the hell is this? But now it's like, it seems like I
don't care about feminism.
It was ahead of its time. Yeah. It's way ahead of its time. Like the stuff that she was doing, and like they had to try to take her seriously as a detective and
a criminologist. And she goes through the whole thing. And I can imagine in the 50s, those guys just went off their gut instincts. And that's kind of like Moneyball in a way too. She was going off of stats and tests and IQ tests that she gave Costner's character. I mean, there's just a lot of layers in the movie that, I mean, I can't believe people missed out on. Well, we're telling everyone to see this movie, A Perfect World. It is good. I will say I did cry. I did tear up.
You did?
And
I did a little at the end too. I always do.
But I think it's because I was thinking of how like moving it would be to you at this particular time too. So it's just it's the whole thing of like, but I definitely think that for having so many popular elements to it, it is unusual that if you were like, hey, have you seen A Perfect World? People would be like, what the heck is that? I have no idea. And then if you told them who was in it, they'd be like, what? How have I not heard of this? Yeah. So that is strange.
It is strange too, because Clint Eastwood just won the Oscar for Best Picture, right? Was it Unforgiven? Best Picture, Best Director, probably Best Actor.
I think it was 92.
92. I mean, this is 93.
Yeah.
So it's like, and Kevin Costner was huge. It's just this weird anomaly that
Mm.
it got missed over. I don't know. Maybe Jurassic Park killed it. I think it came out in the summer. I'm not sure. Maybe it just got buried.
This is also an interesting thing that you bring up that would make for a good list, like movies where the director had like a major hit, and then what did they follow it up with?
Yeah.
Because it just made me think of Paul Thomas Anderson, how he followed up Boogie Nights with Magnolia.
Yep.
So it was like, and there's directors who do that where they'll do like a much more popular film, and then they follow it up with something that's kind of weird that they really wanted to make.
Yep.
So this feels like that. Unforgiven is a lot more accessible, like where you wouldn't be like, what the heck? I don't want to go into this area. Like this is a little bit like uncomfortable, like A Perfect World does.
And I don't know if I haven't watched the trailer in a while, but I think their trailer was weird too. Like it was made to be more kind of sweet than it ended. So I bet people were very angry at the ending. I could see that happening. But at the same time, you know, it's dark like the end. It's just as dark as Unforgiven, and it's kind of like a natural transition from that movie if you watch them back to back. And actually, the other movie we're going to talk about is another movie that's like that. Somebody that's making a huge movie and then makes a little one for themselves.
We're doing it right now. This movie is insane. It's called The Weatherman. Directed by Gore Verbinski of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise in 2005. So you're right. I didn't realize that, but yes, because I was like, Gore Verbinski, like Pirates and Rango and Mouse Hunt.
He actually made this in the middle of the 3 Pirates movies. Like from 2003 to 2007, he made 3 Pirates movies and this, which is completely bizarre. Like, I don't know where it came from.
Where did it come from? And honestly, to be fair, The Weatherman is so weird that if it had come out at any time, I would have thought that it was a weird time. So to even hear this part about it, like, Swart, please set up this movie for people. Like, this is such a bizarre film. Set it up for us.
Well, firstly,
what's it about?
First of all, though, had you heard of it ever before this?
Yes, that's because I love Cage.
Cage, okay. So Cage plays this guy. He's having a midlife crisis. He's a weatherman at a Chicago TV station. And
yes,
my favorite part of the film is the beginning, where he's just walking around his house. Like, it kind of looks like he's doing Tai Chi, but he's practicing his weather moves. Like, here's the cold front, and like, what? And right away you're just like, what is this? This is insane. But it's also, he's struggling. He's recently divorced. His kids are getting older and more grown up, and so he's struggling to connect with them. And another thing, which I can't get away from these types of movies, like, because we picked these way before the thing happened with my dad, and it's like I forgot about the live funeral they have in this movie. But like, his dad is diagnosed with lymphoma or whatever, so he's dealing with that. Michael Caine, he's dealing with that, and then he's dealing with trying to try out for, it's called Hello America on there, but it's really it's just like Good Morning America. Brian Gumbel's in the movie. So he wants to be like the Al Roker or whatever of the Hello America show. So he's just very much plays kind of a schlub, but at the same time he's on TV, so he's kind of full of himself in some ways. And I went back and I reviewed this in like January of 2016 on Letterboxd.
Wow.
And it's really old, and I called it one of the passive-aggressive, repressed Midwestern winter angst films in the vein of Fargo.
Wow, Swart.
Because it is. It's very passive-aggressive. It's very dark, hugely dark comedy. Like, I really want to know what you think about it, because you haven't told me yet.
Well, I just thought it was so, the way that this movie is, right? You can't tell if you're supposed to laugh or not, because the music is very how do you even describe it?
I think it's Hans Zimmer, actually. Okay. Which doesn't make any sense.
It's like very heavy, right? Like
Yeah.
weighted score, like serious.
Yes.
And then it actually takes place in Chicago, but also Evanston, where I used to live. So I loved the aspect of the film of like, that was where I went to the mall.
Yeah.
Like Nicholas Holt and his friend are at the mall that I used to go to. I even recognized some of the streets and like the condos. So that was cool because I actually lived near Northwestern.
Yeah.
Anyways, but yes, you don't really know if you're supposed to be laughing at this person, but then his life is so
Bizarre.
horribly depressing. Like everything is going wrong for this guy. People literally throw things at him.
But it's so real though. Like when they cut to that couple on the couch watching him do the weather, and that guy's like, "This guy's an asshole. I hate his asshole face." Like, have you never like done that? Like, there's some weatherman or anchor that you hate, and you just are ripping on him for no reason other than that you don't like the way that they look or they talk. Like that seemed real to me. I don't know.
Well, and also the thing that keeps happening to him, which he seems deeply resentful towards, is that people will recognize him in real life, like in line.
Yeah.
And they're like,
they ask for an autograph, and he hates it. And then they throw pop at him on the street. What about that montage of like fast food things that get thrown when he remembers all the things that have gotten thrown at him? And then there's like so much stupid product placement, like Wendy's and Burger King and McDonald's, and like you could just tell like nobody wanted to make this movie. Only got to make it because of pirates and because of product placement. And he's just,
I'm dying.
Dad, I got hit with a pop.
No, the funniest part is when he says that he got hit with a Frosty, and Michael Caine is like, "What's a Frosty?"
He has to explain.
And he's like, it's ice cream.
It's so funny.
Like, he's like, it's ice cream from Wendy's, and his dad just looks at him, and his dad's like a Pulitzer Prize winning author who's like so esteemed, and here he is watching his son.
Why would someone throw a shake at you? Like another thing I wrote, like it was funny going back and reading this review from like 7, 8 years ago, because I called Michael Caine an opaque alien. And I think it's like he plays it until the end. For most of it, he plays it like almost like Jeff Bridges and Starman. Like it's just so weird.
Otherworldly.
He plays it like an alien.
Yeah, but no one in this movie behaves normally. That's what I'm trying to say.
No,
it's so strange. The only people who behave normally are like the strangers who ask for his autograph.
Yes.
Or like they'll be like, "Hey man, what was the word?
The spritz nipper." Yeah, his name is Dave Spritz. And the coldest day of the week is called the Spritz Nipper. Spritz Nipper's on Thursday, man.
Oh my gosh. You really I hope that we're selling this movie just out of like sheer blind curiosity, but it's so weird.
It is.
And then there's a lot of dark things that occur where I was like, Swart, hopefully this isn't going where I think it's going. Like
no, it still ends on a sweet note a little bit. I don't think it gets too dark, but it definitely drags you down a little bit. Like the stuff with the dad, the stuff with the daughter, the stuff with the Nicholas Holt's character. I had forgotten all about that with Gil Bellows.
That's what I'm referring to.
Oh,
yeah.
God, that was uncomfortable.
I was scared.
So uncomfortable.
Yes,
like,
yes.
Why was that even left in the movie?
What even stands out to you so much, Swart? Like, why do you think this is a hidden gem? Emphasis on the gem part. Like, why is this a gem to you? Of all the things that you could have chosen.
The dark comedy portion of it is for, like, there's many midlife crisis movies, but this one is Nicolas Cage, and some of it is so dead on. Like, when he talks about when his wife yells at him to get the tartar sauce, and he's going on that
my
walk,
gosh, the tartar
and he
sauce.
keeps saying tartar sauce, and then the other stuff distracts him, and the girl's butt distracts him. It's tartar sauce, and then he still forgets the tartar sauce and gets yelled at. That is so what being a middle-aged married guy is about. That is dead on right there.
So this is like your American Beauty.
It was, and actually, when I first watched it, I didn't even have kids yet. So then now my daughter is like kind of that age where she's 12 to 13. So that
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff, like with his daughter, like that hit me pretty good too. Um, and just the archery stuff was so great, where he's trying to teach, he won't do it, and then he ends up doing it. Like it's just so perfect. It's
You
just
just feel like it's
Midwestern,
so true. Yeah.
Midwestern to the core, and the way Cage plays it, like he doesn't really rage cage much, but
No.
everything he does is hilarious. Like just he underplays it sometimes too. Even like when he's with his dad, he lets Michael Caine be weird, and he just tries to be normal. But then stuff will happen to him, like when the lights go off when he's trying to give a speech about his dad, and all he says is, "My dad is like the Bob Seger song, Like a Rock," and then all the lights go off. And then by the time the electricity gets turned back on, everybody's forgotten that he was making a speech, so he doesn't even get to make it.
Or the real one of the scenes that really stands out to me is when all his dad. I'm about to start laughing again, but all his dad wanted was the paper, and he.
The coffee. He only has $1. You need to carry more than $1 in your wallet, son, because he gave $20 to his daughter, and he only had $1. Dude, that has happened to me so many times.
Oh my gosh!
So many times.
He tries to break $1, and he can, and then all he can do. He gets the coin stuck in the. It's just a series of like things going wrong, and then he gets the coffee, and his dad's like, "Where's my paper?" And he's like, "I didn't have the money." And he's like, "But you bought a coffee."
And it's an Arby's coffee.
It just keeps devolving, and there's so many situations like this, like where he just like throws a snowball at his wife, and it hits her in the face.
Right. That's right. That's enough. Every scene is weird. Like
every scene is weird.
And the dad is like, or Caine is like, her colleagues say she call her camel toe. What is a camel toe? They have to like explain it.
And then the daughter's like trying to say how she's like a camel walking on his toes or something.
No, she's like, they call me that because I'm tough like a camel. It's so bad, but it's also so funny and so real. Like this is the way the people act in that is dead on Midwestern, I think. I mean, even more so than like Fargo, because Fargo is like kind of the over the top version, but this is like the true passive aggressive, like especially when he's in line with that guy and he keeps talking trash to him behind until he turns around and he's like, "Why would you say it to my face?" That's so Midwestern, and that I think that's why I thought it was so funny.
Yeah, at first I was mortified because I felt like I shouldn't be laughing because it was so depressing.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, well, Swart must think this is funny. So, and then once you sort of just accept that it's funny, it's kind of like in Bruges.
Yep.
A little bit, which I love.
Absolutely.
That's another dark where you're like, you're laughing, but
you're trying to get on its wavelength, but you don't know if you should be. You almost feel bad for laughing.
Yes. And then the misery continues to descend.
It just piles up till you're like, this is so ridiculous. I can't.
How's he going to get out of this? And then there's a really good speech towards the end where Michael Caine is saying like, what is it? That we all have to. He didn't say like suck it up, but there was like a phrase he used where it's like you have to get it out.
No, I might have that in my phone.
Do you know what I'm saying?
No, like I know exactly what you're talking about. Nothing that has meaning is easy.
Yes.
That was one of them, I think. Nothing. Yeah, and it's like it's weird because he acts like a total aloof weirdo alien, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere he comes in and when Cage is at his lowest, he has this like really meaningful speech, and you're like, wow, what kind of movie is this? This isn't what I thought. And yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, he's saying like you have to be able to sort of like let off steam and release these things, even though like, and that being a grown up means that nothing's going to be easy ever again, and that you should just expect that instead of being like, why are these things happening to me? Just accept that your life is going to be suffering, and that in the moments that it's not, you should be very grateful. It shouldn't be the other way.
Yeah,
where like you expect no suffering. And then when it comes, you're upset. Just expect it. And then when you're spared it, be grateful.
Yeah, totally. And it totally like ties the film at the end because he's just getting all these terrible things happen to him and we're just laughing at him. But in the end, he really kind of does learn a lesson from his dying
Mm.
father. So it's like this, the corniness of that, but it's a dark spin on that. And again, I think it's like a perfect world. Like people just saw that and were like, what is this? Like, this
Yes.
is too dark. This is, I don't get this. Um, and I think, honestly, I think that was one of the ones. What was that, about 2005? That might have been the last
Yes.
really mainstream Cage like drama for a while. Um, at that point, because he'd already made an adaptation and
2002.
yeah, I don't think there was. I think he went back to doing mostly like action movies after that because this movie really bombed hard. Like
Oh yeah, I'm
I
sure.
think it made like $18 million or something. It was a huge bomb. I don't think I ever even saw it until I think I rented a DVD of it off when you could do that on Netflix, like probably
Mm.
2006, 2007. And then I didn't see it again forever until I reviewed it for Letterboxd. And I was like, whoa,
And that was in 2016.
yeah, that was like
So
10, 11 years later. I was like, whoa,
yeah.
that's when I was going down one of my Cage rabbit holes. And I'm like, oh, I kind of remember this one being okay.
Well,
And then it just blew my mind.
it is interesting because I actually watched have you seen a movie called Some Came Running
No.
with Frank Sinatra?
Uh-uh.
Okay. I watched this movie yesterday. It's directed by Vincent Minnelli, who did Gigi and Meet Me in St. Louis. He was
So it's
married
like
to Judy
from the
Garland.
40s or 50s or
Hmm.
okay.
But he made this movie called Some Came Running with Frank Sinatra, Shirley MacLaine, and Dean Martin. And it's all about his midlife crisis. He's a writer. He's a drunk.
Yeah.
He's trying to do better, but then he's like pulled between these two worlds and conflicting impulses and stuff like that. And Richard Linklater is the one who loves the movie, and it like changed his life when he started at the University of
Oh,
Texas
I
in
gotta
the
watch
80s.
this.
Oh, you should. And it was good. But Linklater was saying like a lot of people just don't want to watch midlife crisis movies.
Right.
Like they don't want to see people sort of trying to deal with their own shit and failing,
Yep.
quite frankly, because that's what happens. And especially Frank Sinatra doing that. But to me, I love that Frank Sinatra would be doing
That's
that.
super
And
interesting. I would love to watch that movie.
yeah, and it was great. And then it's got the Rat Pack thing going with Dean Martin, and they were just a bunch of buddies
Well,
making a
I
movie.
think these two movies were kind of put out there as mainstream movies when they're not. I mean, they're almost like indie movies in some ways. And I think
You're right.
I don't think the mainstream cinema would really understand this. Even the adaptation crowd too, because it's like this is like there's corniness in this one. You know, it's not like a Kaufman movie, but at the same time, I find it interesting because it is that typical midlife crisis movie, but it's made like super like with an edge and it's dark, but at the end, it still ends up in a good place. So I just thought it was an interesting take on that.
And it's also very cinematic. Like you can tell
Yeah.
money was involved.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing.
Yes, there's so
'Cause
many good
normally-
shots in that.
Yeah, and like the score and everything, like we're talking about, like he had Michael Caine in this film, so there's a gravitas attached to this thing that really feels way more indie.
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing to have those two elements, like very, very high production value,
Yes.
but then a small story.
Yeah.
That's like not a typical story. But then you have movie stars in the roles.
Yeah, it's interesting. The guy that shot that, I was looking at his kind of filmography. I can't remember his name. He's got a really weird name, but he also did the Indiana Jones movie, Dial of Destiny, and I'm like, well, that doesn't seem like a good match at all, because like,
what the heck?
Yeah, so like some of it, like, I feel like it was a good match for this, but this guy's done like a lot of mainstream movies too, so. It just was these different tones clashing together, and it made something interesting, I think.
Yeah. So definitely, guys. I don't know. The Weatherman is one that I would only recommend in this context because it is not a movie that I would normally seek out or enjoy, but because Swart made me watch it, I had a lot of fun.
You actually liked it?
I enjoyed myself.
Okay, all right.
Let's not go that far.
That's fair.
I enjoyed the experience, and I did actually laugh quite a bit, even though it was just so strange.
There's no way you
Um,
can't laugh at Nicolas Cage getting hit with a big gulp. There's just no way.
in slow-mo
In
too.
slow
Like,
mo.
I mean, and it happens just multiple
And
times throughout the film.
SpongeBob. We didn't even mention
And
SpongeBob.
I know. And then he's like on a what?
The float.
He's like afloat,
Like
yeah.
the
And he's
Macy's
like, well,
float. Yeah.
if you ever think that your life is like, if I ever think that my life is like way too bad, at least I'm in front of SpongeBob. Always in front of SpongeBob. Because there's like this gigantic float of SpongeBob and it's in the distance, and then that's it. So very important, people, to not ever be behind
Yeah.
something that you hate.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna end this with very briefly, because I cannot talk about this with Swart.
Oh no.
The film that was in my book that I've been covering, that I covered, is called Breaking Away by Peter Yates of Bullet and Friends of Eddie Coyle. It's a movie made in 1979. I mistakenly thought that Swart would love this movie and that it would be a wonderful timing. I gave it 4 stars, and then he's like, "This movie sucks." And I think, what, 1? Did you give it 1 or like a half?
I'm looking at it now. I gave it a 1. I gave it a 1. I don't know. It just that. Here's like I can see why you thought I would like it. I can see why you thought I would like it. It just reminded
I'm
me.
I'm afraid to recommend anything again.
No, don't. No, come on. I'm going to see that Sinatra movie for sure.
Oh yeah, you should.
Yeah.
That could have been our hidden gem, because that's also from the book. So actually, I'm doing 2. Some Came Running.
Okay.
And Breaking Away. If you end up hating one, watch the other. Let's put it that way. But
why don't you talk about what you love though? Because I still haven't heard why you love it really.
Breaking Away.
Yeah.
I love the kid who wants to be Italian.
Okay.
And has such a passion and like zest for life, and he's just in this like dump of a town, which I thought you'd be like, you like the small town sort of vibe. His dad's kind of, of the generation where they just don't know how to talk to their sons at all.
Yeah.
But like they care, and like the most meaningful they can do is like pat him on the back once a decade.
Yeah.
That sort of dad, like the Dead Poets Society dad.
He gave him a trophy. He gave him his bike trophy. I mean, and he showed up. That kind of won him over a little.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's also about friendship. It's about growing up. Dennis Quaid is in his debut role. Daniel Stern from Diner. I love the kind of any movie that has like a diner vibe, or like I just watched Beautiful Girls. That's another one where you've got this like male camaraderie, friendship stuff where they're like between phases, like they want to grow up, but they're not quite yet.
And that was, I mean, for me, it was kind of that just hit in the spot of movies that I hated, because I was 8, 9, 10 years old when all those like The Big Chill and Diner and St. Elmo's Fire, all that crap. Like, so to me, like that was like the stupid adult stuff. I want to watch Rambo, so that it is all kind of like the age you are when you go through some of this stuff too, so.
Well, that's why you don't like Bull Durham.
Yep, it is, because that was like the divorced mom's favorite movie. Like my mom loved that movie, and that was like the thing for divorced moms in their 30s. And I just like I don't want to watch that. I'll watch Major League. I don't care. I want to see like swearing and angry ball players, but I'm 12 years old, so it's different.
So you don't like but when you rewatch these movies, it takes you back to your initial impression.
When I rewatch Bull Durham, there's more respect there, obviously, but at the same time, it's not a movie that it's just annoying. It's an annoying movie. I find it annoying. I don't know why.
Oh, Swart, pains me.
I'm sorry. I usually like every baseball movie, even that Costner baseball movie that Raimi made. I like that one too. What is it? For Love of the Game.
Oh, For Love of the Game. For some reason, I wanted to say the golf one.
Oh, Tin Cup. That one's pretty bad. See, that was when Costner went up his own butt and was doing his 90s movies after A Perfect World. Like,
what about No Way Out?
No Way Out is good. One.
Yeah. With Hackman.
Early Costner is pretty good. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Well, I've never seen Dances with Wolves. That's probably the one that I need to the most. But
that's a great movie. It's an awesome movie. I mean, it's one of the most well-directed movies ever. That's why it's shocking to me that he ended up doing what he did, because that movie is just so epic. There'll never be another movie that's as epic as that ever. Maybe like the
Last of the Mohicans or something.
It's better than that. It's better than that. It's better than that.
Okay.
You know, it's like a 80s version or 90s version of like The Revenant in some ways, but it's also got, you know, that epic sweetness. You know, you're getting to know people that are alien from you, and you get seeing both sides of the story, and it's just shot incredibly well. It's one of the best shot movies ever.
Did he even direct anything else after that?
Yeah, he did the Postman. He did the Postman, which was you know,
like apocalyptic.
Yeah,
right?
I don't hate the Postman. I don't hate it. I just like, it's nothing like Dances with Wolves. Like, it's not even close to that.
He was having an identity crisis there, maybe.
He was. I just think he was this point where he got too famous and was probably listening to some bad advice, or I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, he bounced back with stuff like Open Range is a really good movie. Have you seen that? That's an awesome Western that he did.
No, and he's also in that Yellowstone show that my grandmother watches.
Yeah, so. I don't watch that either, but it's very popular. I know.
It's very popular.
I haven't watched it. A lot of people, I've had at least probably 15 people tell me to watch that, and I haven't.
Swart, okay, you need to get on it. If that many people who know you tell you to do something, they must be correct.
I don't know. I don't know. It looks part of it. It looks like the TV show Dallas to me, in some ways. I'm sure it's darker, but that's kind of what it looks like to me.
On that note, this episode has been absolutely all over the place. I hope that you find a recommendation in the many, many movies that Swart and I covered. I hope that you find one that really sticks out to you, and I hope that movie is Bull Durham.
Oh,
Swart, do you have any parting words?
I don't know. That cuts me. That hurts me. I think everyone watching this, if they don't watch A Perfect World, they should watch The Weatherman, because it's Nicolas Cage is fantastic in it, and it's absolutely grossly hilarious in a lot of different ways, but it ends up being kind of sugary sweet at the end, and I think people would get something out of that. At least the people that we interact with in Letterboxd.
Interact with the weirdos. And if you do see it, please comment on Swart's review from 2016.
Yeah.
Make sure you go to
it was a weird one. It's not very good, but there's some funny
just do it
one-liners in it,
just to bring us all back for the nostalgia. All right, Swart, it's a pleasure as always. Thank you for enlightening us with your cheer, and we'll see you at the movies.
Thank you.